Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's easy to overlook your income and expenses. How many of you can answer these questions? How much of your income did you save last year? How much did you spend on things such as entertainment, fast food, petrol, groceries, hanging with friends? And what percentage of your income did you spend on things like that? Did you manage to save money every month? If so, how much did you save? And are you happy with that amount? If not, what could you do better? Before we go any further into the video, let me first show you what this video is about. I'm gonna help you answer all those questions and more within a matter of seconds. And this is how. Step 1. Download your bank statement. Step 2. Copy and paste the transactions into the spreadsheet I'm going to give you in this video. Step 3. That's it. All your transactions will automatically be categorized into monthly income and expenses. You see your total income for the month, total amount you spent for that month, the dollar amount and the percentage you saved that month. You will also see what percentage of your income went to your expenses. And if you keep going to the end, you will see the same, but for the whole year. You may be buying things such as groceries and fuel from different locations, but this spreadsheet is smart enough to group those expenses into one expense so you can very easily see where your money is going. If you like what you see here, or you're now curious about your income and expenses, stick around and I'll show you how to use this spreadsheet properly and get more out of it. At the end of every year, I used to make a spreadsheet which shows the profit of more than 500 different companies all in one spreadsheet. The idea behind it was that you know which companies are doing well and help you to make a more informed decision on which companies to invest in. This year we are not going to look at how well companies have done, we're going to look at how well you have done with your income and expenses. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge a few reasons as to why some people might not have been tracking their income and expenses already. Number 1, for most people this might be a scary thing. Most people who don't track their income and expenses already know they are not in an ideal situation, so there isn't much motivation to put all that time and effort into something that is not pleasant. Well, what I'm giving you won't take that much time or effort, and I'm not a financial advisor, so take this as just for your entertainment. Also, keeping a track of your spending will give you a better understanding of where your money is going and help you to discover areas where you can cut back. Number 2, some people don't know where to start, or they might be very selective on what they track. Well, this spreadsheet uses data straight from your bank, so you can't ignore the little transactions which you think doesn't matter, but everything adds up. Number 3, some people haven't even thought about tracking their expenses, they just want to make more money. Well, this spreadsheet tracks your income too, and also tracking your expenses can help you to cut back and save. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. Number 4, and this might be the biggest reason, most people don't track their income and expenses because they don't have the time. Well, like I have shown earlier, this will take less than a minute. Alright, I'm gonna go through each of these steps again, but in much more detail, so you know what these colors and other stuff mean. The bank statements I'll be using in this video are actual bank statements I got from people, which I merged into one and modified a few things for privacy reasons. So I changed things such as names and place names. Okay, so step 1 is to go and download your last year's bank statements in an Excel format. For ANZ customers, click on Export, change the start date to 1st of January 2022 and the end date to 31st December 2022. And under where it says File Format, click on Excel, then click Export. For ASB customers, change the date to 1st of Jan 2022 to 31st of December 2022. And under where it says Export As, click on CSV. Now you might have noticed each bank showcases your transactions differently. ANZ has 13 columns, while ASB has 7 columns, and they both code your transactions differently. Therefore, I have only made spreadsheets for ASB and ANZ, which are the 2 biggest banks in New Zealand. I will look to do more banks in the future depending on how well this video does. If you are a customer at another bank, or you are watching this from another country, keep watching and I will show you how you could still use this spreadsheet with your bank. More on that later. I will be using an ANZ statement for this example. Step 2 is to copy and paste your transactions. Download the appropriate spreadsheet from the description of this video. When you open it, it will ask you for a password. The password is KiwiInvestments, one word with capital K and capital I. If you are getting it wrong, then just copy and paste it from the description. Then click on Enable Editing. Next, open up your bank statement which you downloaded. And you will notice that if you downloaded the correct spreadsheet, the top rows should match up. You don't need everything after the amount, so you can just delete those. Now, copy everything apart from the top row because the top row is already here. Easiest way to do that is click on this cell here, which is A2. Then on your keyboard, hold down Ctrl Shift and press the right arrow button until you get to the end here. And while you're still holding down Ctrl Shift, press the down arrow. Let go, then press Ctrl C to copy it. Come to the spreadsheet over here, click on the cell A2 up here, and either click on paste up here or press Ctrl V. For Mac users, just replace Ctrl with Command. When you paste it, my spreadsheet will automatically calculate your income and expenses for the whole year and list them here. Now you might have also noticed that this part here has become very colorful. These colors are important. It tells you whether the spreadsheet has calculated the transaction as either income, expense, or ignored. By default, it will ignore all transfers you did within your accounts, because the chances are if you have a normal checking account, you will also have a savings account too, and transferring money between your accounts is neither an income or an expense, so it ignores it. Now if you see white, that means you have to decide whether it's an income, expense, or ignore. By default, I set it to not automatically calculate ATM transactions because I don't know where that money is going or coming from. I will let you decide that. If you want to include it as an income or an expense, just come down to the next empty income and expense list and write or copy and paste what's on your bank statement, and it will go through the whole statement and add up the ATM withdrawals as an expense and showcase it to you in the next page. You will also notice that here it will now be painted red to tell you that it has been calculated as an expense. Now before moving on, let's talk about the first troubleshoot you might encounter, and you might have seen it happening already. There is a lot happening in this spreadsheet. For example, this is a formula I made for one of the cells. It takes up more than half a page, and there are more than 500,000 formulas in this spreadsheet. So when you're scrolling down an app, it can and will lag like this. This is a problem because you might think that this means the spreadsheet hasn't calculated these. So you might go and write these on one of the lists here and end up creating inaccurate and misleading results. I will show you 3 solutions to this. The first solution is the quickest and easiest. When you see the coloring has stopped like this, double click on any cell and without typing or changing anything, just press enter and it will do another quick calculation to what's showing on your screen. The problem with this solution is that it will keep happening as you scroll, so you'll have to keep doing it. Solution 2 is to download the alternative version. If you look in the video description, you will see 2 download links for the same banks. It is the same as the other spreadsheet, but instead of coloring the whole line, it just shows a corresponding dot. Red means expense, green means income, and gray means ignore. If it's too hard to see, then you can just zoom in by using the controls down here. It's up to you which one you prefer. This alternative version has never lagged for me before. Let me know down in the comment section which version you prefer. Solution 3. Look, analyzing transaction from a whole year is a big job, and most of you might find it hard to care about what has happened last year. Ideally, you should be doing this month by month as the month finishes, so that you learn and implement changes as you go. So for 2023, when you're doing this monthly, Excel will find the calculations much easier. Right now, the 2023 spreadsheet is for paid members only, but I will show you a way to get it for free. More on that later. Okay, so those were the 3 solutions to that problem. But before moving on, I just want to let you know that the lagging I'm talking about is only for the coloring. All the other calculations are done instantly. Alright, let's move on to talk about what this is. Categories. This part is very special. I created this to make it easier for you to read and understand the data on the next page. To show you, let's first delete this. When you download the spreadsheet, it will come with the first categories pre-filled like this as groceries, with the 4 major stores in New Zealand listed in the column next to it. If we delete this and have a look at the next page, you will see that Countdown, Countdown AK, Pack and Save M, Countdown LY, Countdown MT, Countdown ST, Pack and Save S are all getting listed and calculated separately. This makes it harder for you to understand how much you're spending in groceries. If we come back and undo all that, then come back to 2022 review page, you will see that all of them were added into one category, and now you can easily understand how much you have spent on groceries and what percentage of your income went to groceries. You can now also see how well you're doing compared to the national average by doing a quick search online. According to Stats Insight, one person household spends at least $66.20 per week on food. So if we get the calculator out, 66.2 times 52 weeks times 2, because I know this person is feeding for 2 people, is 6,884. Come back to the spreadsheet, move this here. So not bad. This person is spending about 1,700 below the national average for groceries. You can do the same for petrol stations. You might have noticed that petrol stations are not shown here, and that's because I had to do extra things for that to work properly, because New Zealand has annoying names for gas stations, like Z for example. example. So all that is being calculated and done in the background. I have left 4 more categories for you to create, or you can delete the groceries ones and have 5 of your own categories. You may have events or projects you're working on and you want to categorize them into one expense. For example, you might be building or working on something like a car or the kitchen. You create a name for it and then you type in the name of your suppliers or workers as they are shown in your bank statement. Let's do a different example. Looking at this, I can see a few expenses we can categorize into one. I can see this person has spent some money on Subway Pitt Street, KFC Green Lane, McDonald's Pitt Street, KFC Avondale, a few more Subways, and so on. Looking at how much you spend on each store doesn't really tell you much. Let's go back and categorize them. Let's name it fast food and let's name the restaurants Subway, McDonald's, and KFC. Now if we come back, all of those individual stores would have disappeared now, and they all show up as one expense, which is fast food. So this person has spent $171 on fast food last year, which accounts for 0.3% of the total income from last year. Maybe this is the reason why this person has spent below average on grocery bills. Each category can have up to 10, but if you have a big event like a wedding, then maybe 10 isn't enough. There is a way around this, and that is to delete what's on your bank statement and rename it to what you want to show up as. For example, Wild Blossom Flowers NZ might have been the florist for your wedding. So for it to show up as a wedding expense, just change the name in the bank statement to what you want. I'm gonna type in wedding expenses. Now when you come back to the next page, you will see that Wild Blossom Flowers has now been changed to wedding expenses. Now let's pretend this flight center ticket was also for the wedding. Come back, just search for it, and we can change that to wedding expenses as well. Come back here and you will see the flight center ticket has now been added onto wedding expenses, and that gets calculated all at once. You might have noticed that Flight Center New Zealand still shows up here, and that's because we only changed one. The one we changed was $1,140, and there still is another ticket somewhere in the bank statement that's worth $652. Okay, while we are here, let's talk more about this page. You already know most of it, but 2 small points are that your income and expenses will be organized from biggest to lowest, and the other point is that this little bar up here will move depending on how well you have done for that month. For example, if I were to go and delete some expenses from February, you will see that the amount we saved has increased and the bar has moved to the income side a bit more. Compared to January, where the expenses were 4 times the income, the bar is red and has moved all the way towards the expense side. Let's undo that. And there you go. Another point is that some of you might have a credit card associated with the same bank you have your checking account. Now this is the part where my international viewers or customers of other banks still could use the spreadsheet too. Because if you have a look at how the bank statement for ANZ credit card is shown, it is completely different to how it displays the checking and saving account statements. Don't worry, you can still use my spreadsheet, you just have to do a few things which will not take long at all. I will start with a new blank spreadsheet to show you all that it is working. First, copy the process date and paste it under the process date and transaction date. Remember the keyboard shortcut. Start from the top and press Ctrl-Shift down to select everything, then press Ctrl-C to copy it. Paste it under transaction date and process date. ANZ shows the transaction date and the process date. If your bank statement only shows one date, then copy that and paste it under process date and transaction date on this spreadsheet. That is needed. Now copy the details or the reference from your bank statement and paste it under the column with the heading details. Next, copy and paste the amount. And you would have noticed this spreadsheet has already calculated all the grocery amount and fast food amount too, because we have already put it down here. I'm just gonna get rid of them. And if you're watching this from overseas, you might want to delete these as well. Next, under type in payment and drag it all the way down. And as you can see, everything will now be calculated automatically apart from the petrol stations. Like I said before, the petrol stations gets calculated automatically behind the scenes, but when you're doing it that way, it skips that step. So you would have to do it manually. And to do that, we use categories again. So find the next empty category and type in petrol or petrol stations, and then name the petrol stations you visit. This person has only visited mobile, hit enter. Now everything is calculated. If you go to the 2022 review page, everything should be there. And this guy has done well balancing his credit card at the end of the year. I'm gonna delete 2CC because I know it's him transferring money from his checking account. You of course don't need to start a new blank spreadsheet. You could have copied and pasted this underneath your checking bank statement so everything gets calculated together. Okay, now How do I use this spreadsheet? Well, I use this spreadsheet a little different to how I just shown. And that's because I like to take my time and rename things as I go to give me a better picture as to where my money is going and where I can cut back on things. Like I said before, ideally you should be doing this every month, so it shouldn't take that long to do. So what I do is when I open the spreadsheet for the first time, I highlight the income column and press delete. And I do the same for the expense column. Why? Well, when you do that, it gets rid of the automatic function. You don't have to do this, but I only really made the automatic function for you guys. Oh, and by the way, this is a good time to tell you that when you override any of these cells, it will interfere with the automatic function. By override, I mean clicking and pressing delete in any of these cells or writing over something even if the cell is empty. For example, if I were to write something over Wild Blossom Flowers and said like that and then delete it, Wild Blossom Flowers and said would not return. It will be left out of the calculations. Same with empty cells. There are formulas in there which you can't see, so writing over them will interfere with the automatic function. Just keep that in mind. But you will know if it was left out of the calculations because of the coloring system I talked about earlier on in this video. Okay, let's come back. Okay, now that I have gotten rid of the automatic functions, when I copy and paste the transactions, it will not do the calculations automatically, apart from the groceries. Now what I do is I go and list the income and expenses myself, while at the same time changing the names on the bank statement. For example, this quick bites thing, yeah, it's nice in the automatic function, it'll tell you how much you have spent at this location, but now that I have more control, I can rename this as Workmates Hangout, because I might remember that this is a place that we all visited together after work for a hangout. After I rename it here, I come to the list of expenses and write the same thing here. Now you see it'll get added to the calculations. And let's say this event cinema thing was a date with Jane, so let's change that name. And I come here to list of expenses and write date with Jane. And after the cinema, we might have gone to the coffee club to grab a drink, so I'll rename that to date with Jane. Now, since I already have date with Jane as an expense here, you don't have to rewrite it again. It gets calculated automatically. Here's another quick bite. So maybe we had another Workmates Hangout. Now here's something else I wanted to talk about. So this John Doe Trust is where this person's rent money is going. But it also may be the same account that this person is paying water bills and power bills to. In the automatic function, it will only pick up John Doe Trust and calculate all the money that's going towards it. So it doesn't show you how much you are spending on water and power and rent separately. It just adds them all up together as one expense. So when you're doing it manually like this, you have more control over how it gets calculated. So I'm just going to copy this David rent as an expense. Now if you come down to 15th of July, you will see that 2 transactions were made to this account. In the automatic version, this will be calculated together. But as you see, one is for rent and one is for water bill. Now that I have more control, I can separate these two. So I'm going to copy this and type it in here. Now it will get calculated separately. I'm just going to quickly copy and paste these because these are individual stores that this person has visited. And this Croydon thing is a dealership where this person has bought a new car. So I'm going to rename that to new car. And I might put in the registration number just so when I look back at this in a few years, I know exactly which car I'm talking about. And you can see that this person has made 3 transactions to that account for this car. So I renamed those as well. And don't forget to copy and paste it on the list. Now these 3 transactions will be calculated as one. This is Botany Junction Medical Center. I'm just going to rename that to doctor, or you can rename it to whatever you want to track how much you're spending on your medical bills. Ministry of Justice might be the job, so I'm going to put it as list of income. This Shane Jane one is probably the person who bought the old car, so I'm going to rename it to sold old car, and I might put the registration number as well. Anyways, you get the idea. You keep going until the entire month is colored. But let's have a look at the 2022 review page, and already it paints a better picture as to where your money has gone. You spent 1.2% of your total income in January with Jane, 0.6% of your income in January just hanging out with your workmates, 0.5% on doctor's bills. Let's come to the end. So far from what we have done, this person's new car cost 69% of the total income in 2022. But of course, we haven't done everything yet. This is just an example. And it shouldn't take too long for you to do this month by month as the month finishes. So how do you get the spreadsheet for 2023? Well, for 2022, it's easy. The links are in the description and it's free. For 2023, I'll make it free if I can get 2,000 likes on this video. I would like to give it for free, but I did put in so much work into this. I would like to receive something in return. And liking a video is free, quick, and simple to do. So if this video hits 2,000 likes, I will release it for free for everyone. If you don't want to wait around for other people to like this video and you want it now, then consider hitting that join button next to the subscribe button. Then you can become a Kiwi Investment member for $7.99 New Zealand dollars. Now this is per month, but once you join, you will be able to download the spreadsheet for the entire 2023. So you can cancel it straight away. But if you want to continue for a few months to show your support, that would be much appreciated too. For full disclosure, I will end up getting about 5 New Zealand dollars after taxes, because right now YouTube takes 30% of this amount. Gotta keep YouTube happy with me, and that's another reason why I'm doing it this way. YouTube likes it when it can make money off you. Also guys, another point, if you see these symbols here instead of figures, that means the cell is too small. Just double click up here or click and drag it to make it bigger, then you'll be able to see it. Another point is, when companies release something new, like a new software or a new program, it's likely to have a few bugs or a few problems. I'm assuming my spreadsheet might be the same. I tested it as much as I could to fix a lot of the problems, but I had to work with a limited amount of data because it's always awkward to ask someone for their whole year's bank statement. It is another reason why I only could make spreadsheets for ANZ and ASB. If you do encounter a problem that I haven't mentioned in this video, let me know and I will try to look into it. Thank you for watching, and thank you heaps if you decide to support. See you in the next video.